Have you ever judged someone based on their appearance, only to later discover that they were completely different from what you expected? Today, I'm going to tell you a story that will make you think about how first impressions can be misleading, even in the most exclusive places. Get ready to find out what happened at the Regency Beverly Hills Hotel. This story will leave you speechless and make you reflect on the importance of never judging by appearances. Let's see what happened next. It was a quiet morning in Los Angeles, with the sun shining high in the clear blue sky. The Regency Beverly Hills Hotel, an icon of luxury and elegance, gleamed under the golden rays. It was no ordinary hotel, it was a gathering place for moguls, celebrities, and personalities from all over the world. With its crystal chandeliers casting a warm and welcoming light, its floors made of imported Italian white marble, and its staff trained to provide impeccable service, the Regency represented the height of refinement. In this perfect setting, Isabel began her first day as the head receptionist. Isabel was a 27-year-old woman, determined to prove herself. After years of climbing the ranks in smaller hotels and long hours spent perfecting every aspect of her job, she had finally landed the opportunity of a lifetime. Her goal was simple: to become a pillar of the staff, earn the respect of her colleagues and superiors, and make the Regency her big break. That morning, Isabel had prepared herself meticulously. Her black suit, carefully chosen, was impeccably pressed. Her hair was styled in a neat bun, and her makeup, subtle but elegant, highlighted her confidence. She was ready to face any challenges that might come her way. She mentally reviewed all the hotel protocols, certain that every gesture and every word needed to reflect the excellence of the place. At 10:35 a.m., as Isabel focused on organizing the day's reservations, the entrance door slowly opened. A light breeze, typical of California mornings, entered the lobby. The door swung open, and a disheveled-looking man walked in. He was wearing crumpled jeans, a slightly faded gray hoodie, and a pair of worn sneakers. He dragged a battered suitcase, clearly marked by many travels, and his appearance was in stark contrast to the elegance that characterized the hotel. The man walked slowly, observing his surroundings with curiosity. Isabel immediately took notice. In a world full of elegantly dressed guests, this man represented something entirely different. There was no doubt his casual and unkempt look made him seem out of place in this exclusive environment. Maybe he's at the wrong hotel, Isabel thought, a barely noticeable smile trying to mask her internal judgment. With a firm step, the man approached the reception desk. His gentle smile contrasted with his ordinary appearance. Isabel, stiffening, sat behind the counter, ready to deal with what she thought would be a waste of time. But despite his nonchalant air, the man seemed at ease, as though he was accustomed to being in places like this. "Good morning," he said politely, his voice calm. "I have a reservation here." Isabel, surprised by his confidence, looked him in the eyes for a moment. The man didn't seem uncomfortable, on the contrary, his calm and self-assured demeanor hinted at something else. But Isabel, sticking to her instincts, couldn't help but think it was a mistake. "Excuse me," Isabel began, her tone professional but a bit detached. "Could you tell me under whose name the reservation is?" Her fingers quickly moved over the keyboard, ready to check the details, but in her mind, she had already made a judgment. She was convinced the man couldn't possibly be a guest of the Regency Beverly Hills. The man looked at her calmly, offering a small smile. "Keanu Reeves," he replied simply, as casually as if he were mentioning any name. Isabel stood still for a moment, stunned by the response. Then, almost instinctively, she burst into laughter, trying to hold back the irony that was written on her face. "Keanu Reeves?" she repeated, her tone clearly sarcastic. "Yes, of course. And I'm Angelina Jolie," she added with a forced smile. The man didn't react. He remained calm, with a look that seemed almost amused, as if he were used to such reactions. Isabel, on the other hand, decided to proceed with her protocol, ignoring the name and focusing on resolving what she considered to be an embarrassing situation. Isabel straightened her posture, convinced that this was either a joke or a misunderstanding. In a firm voice, she attempted to take control of the situation. "Sir, I appreciate your sense of humor, but I'm afraid there's been a mistake. We are at the Regency Beverly Hills Hotel, one of the most prestigious hotels in Los Angeles. Our minimum rate is $1,500 per night. If you need directions to more appropriate accommodations, I can assist you." The man didn't flinch. He continued to look at her with his calm, gentle smile, as if nothing could disturb him. "I completely understand," he replied, "but I assure you I have a reservation. Could you please check the system?" His tone was polite, but his insistence began to irritate Isabel. She felt the eyes of other guests in the lobby on her, curious glances directed toward the counter. She was determined to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. "Very well, let's see," Isabel typed quickly on the keyboard, searching for the name in the database. When the search returned no results, a shadow of triumph crossed her face. "As I thought," she said with a forced smile. "There is no reservation under the name Keanu Reeves. You may have the wrong date or the wrong hotel." Before the man could respond, an elderly woman approached the counter timidly. She was holding a piece of paper and a pen. "Excuse me," she said to the man, "would you be kind enough to sign an autograph for me? I'm a huge fan of your movies." Isabel stiffened immediately. She turned to the woman with a polite but stiff smile. "I'm afraid you're mistaken. This gentleman is not who you think he is." But the woman wasn't intimidated. "Oh, of course he is. I recognized him right away. It's definitely Keanu Reeves." Isabel felt a rush of heat to her face. A small crowd of guests had begun to gather around the counter. The younger ones started whispering among themselves, some even searching for information on their phones. Isabel decided that she needed to put an end to this farce. "Sir," she said in a firm tone, "we cannot tolerate this kind of behavior. Making false reservations under the name of a celebrity is a violation of our rules. If you don't leave the hotel immediately, I will be forced to call security." Her words were met with a general silence. The man remained calm, but around him, the tension was rising. Some guests were discreetly taking photos, and Isabel started to feel overwhelmed by the situation. At that moment, the sound of fast footsteps interrupted the tension. Richard, the hotel manager, appeared in the lobby with a terrified expression. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and always perfect posture, but at that moment, he seemed on the verge of collapsing. He stopped abruptly in front of the counter, his face pale as a sheet. "Mr. Reeves," he exclaimed, addressing the man in a tone that betrayed a mix of respect and desperation. "I deeply apologize for this misunderstanding. It's an honor to have you with us. Allow me to personally take care of everything." Richard shot a furious glance at Isabel, who was left speechless. Isabel felt the blood drain from her face. "Mr. Reeves," she whispered, unable to comprehend what was happening. This man, whom she had judged and treated with such arrogance, was he really who he said he was? Richard turned to her with an expression of disappointment and anger. "Isabel, come to my office. Now." Isabel followed Richard with heavy steps. Each click of her heels on the marble floor seemed to amplify the weight of her guilt. As they walked down the short hallway to the manager's office, she felt the eyes of the staff and guests on her. Her confidence had crumbled in an instant, replaced by a mix of shame and disbelief. Once inside the office, Richard calmly closed the door, but the tension in the air was palpable. Isabel stood silently, unable to speak. Richard, on the other hand, sat behind his desk and took a deep breath. His gaze was stern as he locked eyes with her. "Do you know who that man is?" he asked, crossing his hands on the table. Isabel hesitated. "Yes. I understand now. It's Keanu Reeves," she replied, her voice trembling. "I didn't think it was really him. His appearance wasn't what I expected." Richard shook his head, almost in disbelief. "Isabel, he's not just a celebrity. He's one of the major investors in this hotel. He owns the majority of the shares and is, in fact, the most influential owner of the Regency Beverly Hills." These words hit Isabel like a rock. She felt her breath catch in her throat, and a wave of panic washed over her. "The owner," she stammered, unable to process what she had just heard. How could she have made such a grave mistake? Keanu Reeves had bought a large portion of the hotel a few years ago, at the height of the pandemic, to save it from bankruptcy. He had done so quietly, without publicity, because he didn't want it to be known. Since then, he had visited the Regency often, sometimes incognito, to ensure everything was running as it should. Isabel lowered her gaze, unable to bear the severity of Richard's expression. "I didn't mean to disrespect you," she murmured, but her words felt hollow, even to her. Richard stood up from his chair and ran a hand through his hair. "It's not just about respect, Isabel. This hotel represents the pinnacle of professionalism and excellence. Every guest must be treated with dignity, regardless of their appearance. And you failed to uphold these values." Isabel felt crushed by the situation. But before she could respond, a knock at the door interrupted the silence. It was one of the servers, visibly nervous. "Mr. Richard," he said, "Mr. Reeves has requested to speak with Isabel. He says he's waiting for her in the lounge." Isabel's heart tightened. "He wants to talk to me?" she asked, incredulous. Richard nodded, his face a mix of frustration and concern. "Yes, and I advise you to face him with humility. This is your chance to show your character." Isabel left the office with trembling legs. She walked slowly toward the lounge, trying to control her breathing. Her mind was in turmoil. What was she going to say to him? Was it possible he had already condemned her? Or worse, that he was demanding her dismissal? When she reached the lounge, she found Keanu sitting in one of the leather chairs. He was still wearing his cap, but had taken it off and placed it on the small table next to him. He looked calm, as though the incident hadn't disturbed him at all. Isabel stopped in the doorway, uncertain of what to do next. Keanu looked up and gestured for her to come closer. "Isabel, right," he said in the same calm and cordial tone he had maintained throughout their interaction. She nodded and slowly walked toward him. "Please, sit down." Isabel sat down, nervous. "Mr. Reeves, first of all, let me say how sorry I am. I should never have." Keanu raised his hand to stop her. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm not here to judge you. I've seen a lot in my life, Isabel, and believe me, I've learned not to take anything personally. What I want to know is what you think went wrong today." Isabel was taken aback by the question. She hadn't expected a man who had every reason to be angry to ask her to reflect on her mistake. I think I judged too quickly," she admitted. "I saw his appearance and made assumptions. I thought he didn't belong here." Keanu nodded. "I see. And this happens more often than you might think. You're not the first, and you won't be the last. But I'd like to ask you a question. What do you think we, as a hotel, could do to prevent situations like this from happening again?" The question surprised Isabel. She hadn't expected to participate in such a constructive conversation. After a few seconds of hesitation, she replied, "Maybe we could implement a training program for the staff, something that helps us recognize our unconscious biases and focus on the guest experience, not just their appearance." A smile formed on Keanu's face. "I like that idea," he said. "And that's why I want to give you a chance, Isabel. Every mistake can be an opportunity to learn. It's up to you how you choose to use it." Isabel left the lounge with a heavy heart but a strange sense of relief. Not only had Keanu Reeves not humiliated her, but he had also given her the opportunity to redeem herself. His advice echoed in her mind: every mistake can be an opportunity to learn. It was a powerful message, and Isabel decided to take it seriously. That evening, Isabel sat in her small Los Angeles apartment, trying to sort through her thoughts. She had made a mistake, and she knew it. But now, she had to prove that she had learned the lesson. She took time to reflect on how to improve, not only as a receptionist, but also as a person. She began researching unconscious biases and how to confront them, jotting down ideas that could be applied at work. She knew that her next meeting with Richard and the rest of the staff would be crucial. The next day, Isabel entered Richard's office, a folder in hand. The manager looked at her curiously. "Isabel, what's in that folder?" "I've done a lot of thinking about what happened," Isabel began, trying to keep her tone calm despite her nerves. "And I think we can do better. Not just me, but the whole staff. I've prepared a few proposals to improve the way we interact with guests." Richard observed her for a moment, then nodded. "Go on." Isabel took a deep breath. I would like to propose a training program that focuses on two main areas. The first is managing unconscious biases. We need to learn not to judge guests based on their appearance, but to treat everyone with the same respect. The second area is creating authentic experiences. Every staff member should experience the hotel as a guest so we can better understand the impact of our actions on their stay. Richard raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed. And how do you plan to accomplish all of this? We could start with internal workshops and invite outside experts to teach us how to recognize our biases, Isabel continued, gaining courage with her own words. We could also have employees spend a night in one of the rooms, as guests, to observe our service from a different perspective. It would be an educational experience for everyone. Richard took the folder from Isabel's hands and began to flip through it. The ideas were well organized and showed that Isabel had put time and effort into preparing. I have to admit, he said finally, this is a good idea. I have to admit, he repeated, this is an interesting approach. But there's one person who must approve everything, Keanu Reeves. Isabel nodded, mentally preparing herself for another confrontation with the man she had judged so harshly. A few hours later, Richard took her to one of the hotel's main meeting rooms. Keanu was talking with some board members. When Isabel entered the room, she felt her stomach knot. But Keanu's warm smile put her at ease. Isabel, he said, gesturing for her to come closer. Richard told me about your ideas. I'm curious to hear them from you directly. Isabel took a seat at the table and began explaining her proposal. With every word, she felt her determination growing. Keanu listened attentively, nodding occasionally and taking notes in a notebook. When Isabel finished, the room remained silent for a moment. Keanu put down his pen and looked her in the eyes. I like it, he said finally. Not only because it's a good idea, but also because it shows that you've learned something important. Mistakes happen, but what matters is how we face them. In the following days, Isabel and the hotel team began working on the new program, which was renamed the Reeves Protocol. The goal was clear, to make the Regency Beverly Hills a place of inclusion and excellence, where every guest would feel special, regardless of their appearance or social status. In the months that followed, the Reeves Protocol began to take shape. The Regency Beverly Hills Hotel became a laboratory for innovation in the hospitality industry. Every staff member, from servers to housekeeping, participated in workshops on unconscious bias and empathy management. External experts were invited to give interactive talks, using real-life cases to get employees to reflect on their own instincts and judgments. One of the key aspects of the program was the simulation of a guest's experience. Each employee had the opportunity to spend a night in one of the suites, receiving the full treatment reserved for the most demanding guests. This revolutionary practice not only helped them better understand guests' expectations, but also fostered a sense of belonging and pride. Isabel, now a member of the coordination team, observed the shift in the company's culture. One day, while Isabel was overseeing a training session, Keanu Reeves made an unexpected appearance. As usual, he wore simple clothes and sported a friendly smile. He stopped to observe the group of employees engaged in a practical exercise. When Isabel noticed him, he approached with a mix of respect and gratitude. Mr. Reeves, she said, smiling, I didn't expect to see you today. Keanu chuckled lightly. Call me Keanu, he replied. I just wanted to check in. I wanted to see how the program was going. Isabel showed him some of the ongoing activities and told him about the visible results. Customer feedback had improved, and the staff seemed more motivated and engaged. Keanu nodded, clearly satisfied. It's amazing to see how things can change when you give people the chance to thrive. Before leaving, Keanu gave Isabel one final piece of advice: never forget that true luxury is not in golden details or exclusive services. It lies in the ability to make every person feel important. Keep going like this. 5 years later, the Regency Beverly Hills Hotel had become an international benchmark. The Reeves Protocol was adopted by other hotels in the chain, transforming the guest experience into something unique. Isabel, now the head of training for the entire company, spoke at a special ceremony held for the hotel's anniversary. With a calm voice and a heart full of emotion, Isabel shared the story that started it all. I learned an important lesson, she told the audience. It doesn't matter how many mistakes we make. What matters is how we choose to react and what we learn from them. True greatness is not measured by success, but by the ability to treat every person with respect and dignity. In the audience, Keanu Reeves watched her with his usual quiet smile. He wasn't seeking applause or recognition. For him, the success of the program was already the best reward. After the ceremony, Isabel joined him in the hotel garden, a space she had proposed to create during the renovations. "Keanu," she began, "I can never thank you enough for believing in me. The day you gave me a second chance changed my life." Keanu shrugged modestly. "You did it all yourself, Isabel. I just pushed open the door you were already ready to walk through." As the sun set over Los Angeles, the hotel glowed with a golden light, symbolizing a new era. Every guest, every staff member knew that the Regency Beverly Hills was not just a place of luxury but a living example of the power of compassion, growth, and second chances. This story reminds us that every mistake can turn into a great lesson. Treating people with respect and learning from our mistakes can make the difference, not only in our professional lives but also in our personal lives. What do you think of this story? Write it in the comments. We'd love to know your opinion. Thank you for following along. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and activate the bell so you don't miss our upcoming stories.